Hey everybody, final thoughts time for the 5 tribes, Jins of Nagala. Alrighty. Now, I cannot understate enough how big a hit this was at Gen Con. I think I mentioned it right up front. Everybody was talking about it, everybody was excited. There was a race to Days of Wonder's booth every morning because they only had 50 for sale every day and lining up. And again, thank you one more time, final time, to Rhiannon of Spooning Meeples, because it was impossible for me to get there and get a copy of the game. And this, by the way, going into Gen Con, this was my #2 most anticipated game of the show. I was so stoked for this. And I was so bummed when I found out there was no way I was going to get it, because I was staying like a half hour away at somebody's house, and so I couldn't get there in time in the morning. Plus, I don't know. So I couldn't make it. Rhiannon got there for me. She got me a copy of the game. Thank you, Rhiannon. I can't thank you enough. It was really wonderful of you to do it. So, but that's out of the way. Let's actually talk about it. Now that I've got it. I got it home. Jen and I have played it a few times. I've just done another run through for you. What do I think? Is it worth all the hype? Yes, it's really a great, great game. I can certainly see why so many people are calling it the game of the show, or in their top 5 of the show. Several Dice Tower people said it was their favorite game of the show, and it's just super excited. Everybody's really stoked for Bruno Cathala, who's a great designer. He's made many great games that Jen and I absolutely love. Last year's SOS Titanic, oh my gosh, that's an amazing, moving game. And brilliant game. And this is a brilliant game too. And if I was able to play this at a regular basis with 3 or 4 players, I might call it my game of the show as well. But I can't. I only ever get to play this game with 2 players. And I gotta say, I'm actually pretty disappointed with this game as a 2-player game. I'm really kind of bummed, because I think this system here of, in a 2-player game, each player gets 2 moves per round is not broken. That's a big overstatement, but I think it fundamentally does break the spirit of this game. Because this game is all about tactical responses to what other players are doing. It's all about, okay, well, I can only make 1 move in this round, and this is the best move, but oh my gosh, if I make this move, that means I set the next player up for this. And you accept it. You have to roll with it. You have to deal with the fact that you get 1 move per round, and by the time your next move comes around, the board will be radically different. So it's a very tactical game. You make your best move while trying as much as possible not to set up somebody else for an even better move, and you just do your best. And with that in mind, I think this, and plus, that means it can really focus you. Right, what's the best thing I can do now? In a 2-player game, where you can actually get 2 moves back to back, and you usually will, because it's just smart. It's just dumb to not do that. You're just putting yourself at a disadvantage if you set yourself up so that one player gets 2, so that Jen gets 2 back to backs, and I only get 1 move, and Jen gets 2. I'm killing myself. So the game very quickly settles to either I go twice first, and then Jen goes twice first, or vice versa. Pink or blue goes twice in a row. And I think that's a real shame, because then, well, 1, the game becomes much more AP prone, because now you have to make moves knowing that you're going to do 2 back to back. And that does more than it's more than a square root of complexity as you try to figure out what am I going to do with this guy to set this guy up. And so things get hugely complex. And bearing in mind that the board won't change that much, you're trying to set these up and setting up future stuff. With more players, you're less likely to try and push that. So it's very, very common that you get really bogged down. At least, I should say me and Jen. This is my personal experience. Yours might be different. But Jen and I found very, very easy to get bogged down trying to figure out how to most efficiently use 2 guys back to back, because you'll be doing it all throughout the game. And see, that's a shame, because with more players, the only way you can do 2 moves back to back is, let me get out another player marker. Let me get out the orange player marker. In a 3-player game, I should have done that before. I didn't know I was going to need a prop. Although it's obvious, I don't even know why I'd bother with this. So throw these out. In a 3-player game, the only way you can get 2 moves back to back is if you arrange things so, in a given round, you are the last player, and then in the next round, you are the first player. And doing that gives you, and that's very powerful. That's an awesome move, but it costs you. Because it means on the first round, you have to go last, which means you give up, first dibs on the really great opportunity, whatever it is. And then on the next round, you have to pay a premium, a pretty big premium to outbid anybody else. But then it's very, very cool, because it's something that happens every once in a while, and you can do the 1-2, and that's great. In a 2-player game, though, you're doing it all the time, And I just think the game suffers for it. It's still a good game. There's still a lot to think about, but it becomes much more AP prone. And I think a lot of the fun, exciting elements of the game of, right, I got to be careful, I got to make a move and it doesn't set up my opponent. Well, here, it's so easy to do that because I'll just do 2 moves back to back that does something great for me and doesn't give my opponent anything. And then, this game shouldn't be a multiplayer solitaire game, but oddly, it can be. It becomes a multiplayer solitaire in 2 players because you're always looking at this. And in fact, actually, what you can really do, now it's still cool. One thing that's very cool is, hey, I set it up so that in a given round, I have 2 moves back to back that I'm the last player, and then I pay through the nose to get the next 2. Then I have actually done 4 moves back to back. Now that's very expensive and dangerous for the other player to let you do it because you can string together some insanely money-making combos that way. And again, it just feels wrong. When we do that, it feels wrong. It feels like we're cheating because it should be a case that no, we have the much more strictly restricted thing where we just get to do one thing. You never get to do 4 things in a row. So it just feels wrong to us, and that's why as a 2-player game, I just think it suffers. I wish they'd come up with a different turn order mechanism that made the game feel like, a simple variant like, hey, we each get 2 turns per round. Oh, I can't get the piece back. Jen's not here. But you can never set them up so they're next to each other. Something like that I think would have been a lot better. But it didn't. So that's my problem. The core game, brilliant. Very smart. But as a 2-player game, because of the 2-player compromise, which I think was not a good one, becomes much more AP prone. And it just it feels cheap. It doesn't feel like you have to work as hard. Right. Although again, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. We've only played it a couple of times, but each time we played it, we came away from the table feeling that way. And so anyway, other stuff to say. Well, again, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Days of Wonder, as always, they know how to make a good-looking game. It has a lovely table presence. It's just bright and vibrant and happy. You can see just from this view, it's just lovely. It draws you in. Although, gosh, that said, I don't understand why Days of Wonder scrimped and forces in a 2-player game. Again, it's another 2-player game complaint. If you're playing 2-player, you must be blue or pink. You cannot play the other colors. It would have only cost them, very, very little just to put a few more pieces in. That kind of bums me out. It's not the end of the world, but hey, you know what? Some people really don't want to be pink. And for some people, it's a big deal. So I don't know why they didn't just spend. I mean, they always lavish their productions with tons of resources. I don't know why they got cheap at the last second and forced people to be pink. Not that there's anything wrong with pink. I have no problem with pink. But you know what? Maybe, this isn't even a problem for us, but I'm just saying for some people, it might be a real issue that you are forced to play pink. So, FYI. And again, only in 2-player. So once again, 5 tribes, not as good as it could be. With 3 or 4 players, not an issue because they put in enough markers under those circumstances. Again, I don't understand why, so weird. Last thing I'm going to complain about, and I'm really on the fence about even talking about this, because when I did the Carnival Zombie thing and I expressed my feelings about how it was a very, very poor choice for them to include a sniper character named Columbine. That was just a bad, bad move. It still makes my skin crawl every time I think about it. And it was just a dumb move. It was just, they were Talon developers. They didn't quite understand, social implications, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to start a big flame war on that again. I already started one flame war, but I'm thinking about doing it again because I think it's in borderline poor taste to include this card and make it an incredibly common card. You, over the course of this game, will get to the point, like right now, of the 9 commodities in the commodity market that we could get right now by going to markets and buying commodities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 9 commodities are slaves. This game very strongly encourages you to engage in very, very heavy human trafficking. And not only do you buy slaves and put them to work, as slaves, straight up slaves, you can also sacrifice them. You can kill them to worship the evil, dark god, demon genies. It makes my skin crawl again. I don't understand. This is such a lovely, beautiful, vibrant, upbeat, fun-themed game. This is a game about reuniting the 5 tribes and old friends coming together. That's the fundamental thing. Hey, when I pick up these guys, boom, boom, all these yellows, it's, we got the band back together again. Oh, we're all so happy that we rejoined our tribe. We will join you and give you points. Oh, by the way, the absolute depths of human suffering and depravity, just par for the course. While you're at it, while you're doing all this fun, happy stuff, why not condemn a bunch of poor souls to slavery? And then while we're at it, let's make them look really miserable. Let's put them in chains. And just, I don't get that. I don't understand that. Now, I know the answer is, hey, you know what? Slavery was really common back in this time. Slavery is a very, very common conceit in the Arabian, 1001 Tales of Arabian Nights. I get that. I understand that. There's historical context. Fine. At some level, though, I don't care. There was a huge brouhaha about the Washington Redskins, the baseball team. Is it baseball? I don't know sports. I just know the Washington Redskins. Everybody's up in arms saying, change the name, it's so ridiculous. And the counter argument is, but it's our heritage, it's our tradition, we've always been the Redskins. And I don't know. Do they say we don't find it racially offensive? We don't find it to be culturally insensitive? We will be Redskins until the day we die. And it's like, just saying that out loud, so terrible. I feel the exact same way about these slave cards because these cards could have been anything. Probably the most thematically appropriate thing is they could have been stallions. They would have had the exact same thematic use. Stallions could help you improve your ability to build. They could improve your ability to assassinate, etc., etc. Stallions were incredibly valuable back then. And, they were arguably more valuable monetarily than slaves were. So they'd be a very valuable sacrifice to the dark demons. And they'd be hey, there's happy horses. And it's part of the overall fun production of this game. But instead, while we're playing this game, and every time I do a merchant, like, oh, I guess I'll buy this human being and subject him to a life of slavery. And I guess I'll buy this one too. And and I guess I'll kill these two slaves. And I guess I'll use these slaves. And it's just like, oh my gosh, why? I don't understand why they did that when it could have been so easily something else and there wouldn't be this pall. Now, people know when I did my run-through for Endeavor and Freedom Underground Railroad, I praised those games mightily for including slavery and taking an unflinching look at what slavery meant. And I think those games were great because those were not fun little fluffy borderline gateway family games. Those were, those were deep, heavy games that when they used slavery, it was about something. It was actually intended to spark conversation, to make you feel and understand what slavery is. In this game, I don't get it. I don't know what it's in. I guess you could make the argument that the publisher, whoever was responsible at Days of Wonder for choosing to include slaves says, no, gosh darn it, in the middle of this fun, happy, colorful game of reuniting tribes, I want people to stop and think and really and have debates about the merits of slavery and what it meant and changing cultural norms. Maybe that's what they want to do. But if that's the choice they made, I gotta say, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I think that was a poor choice. And it casts a pall over the entire game. That while we're just trying to have fun, we are constantly staring down the barrel of human suffering and misery and one of the darkest, most terrible things humanity has ever done. Why is that here? I don't get it. So that's weird. It's not a game breaker, and I'm sure most, believe me, you don't even have to reply. I get it. It's just a game. It's just a game. Either that or, forget about it. It's just a game. Or it really happened and it's, if that's what you want to say, believe me, you don't have to say it. I agree. That's true. It is just a game. It did really happen. It doesn't change the fact that in my personal opinion, I believe it was a poor production choice on Days of Wonder's part to include slavery as such a core central mechanism of what should be a fun, happy, light, silly, but thinky, smart game. That's just my opinion. They should have been super resources. They should have been bags of gold. Just bags of gold, or rubies. Bags of rubies, because then that supplements everything. It's a wild card that helps you no matter what. And then it fits. It's in the commodities. Instead of looking at my commodity market and saying, wow, over 50% of the commodity market is slavery. Just my opinion. I'm not wrong because I can't be wrong about my particular. It's particularly subjective. And as I always say, please, folks, my opinion doesn't matter about the game at all. Watch the video, draw your own conclusions. If you're not bothered by slavery in a game, great. I get that. I'm not bothered by assassinations in this game. Does that make me a hypocrite? Because murder is arguably even worse than slavery. And I'm totally fine with that. But I'm not fine with the slavery. I'm a hypocrite. Guilty as charged. It's the way I feel. I spent way too much time talking about it, but I'm just anticipating, based on what happened with Carnival Zombie, that I really should get everything I feel, because I just kind of mentioned it in passing with Carnival Zombie that, hey, that's kind of dumb, too bad, dumb decision. Whereas here, I'm saying basically the same thing, and I just don't, I want to avoid the firestorm of controversy. I shouldn't say it at all. I've spent way too much time talking about it, because really what I should be talking about is, this is an awesome, fun game for 3 or 4 players. And if I had 3 or 4 players, I would totally keep it, but as a 2-player game, it's going. In fact, anybody in Europe want to get an early copy of 5 Tribes? Let me know. There's a copy sitting right here in Malta with your name on it. So, that's it, folks. Thanks for watching. Oh my gosh, please don't flame me. Please just agree to disagree about the slavery thing. I shouldn't have spent as much time on this, but I don't know, it's just weird. It's just, you know, the Columbine thing happened, and then actually this morning I did a run through for Greed, which is an awesome little game where it's a fun, family-friendly game of card drafting, which they then filled with really terrible, horrible stuff like sex trafficking and drugs, and being a drug dealer, and they're like, wah! And then this with slavery in a place that, yes, historically appropriate, thematically appropriate, but overall feel appropriate in a happy, feel-good game? No. Slavery does not belong in a game that is just bright and happy and sunny and colorful and wonderful. So I just don't get, there's just been this weird series of just very, very poor, has nothing to do with the design of the game, has everything to do with choices that producers are making. And again, maybe it's all just me, because it's kind of my thing. I am hugely sensitive to theme. A game that Tom Vassell dismisses as JASE, just another soulless Euro, there's no theme here, there's no heart, there's no love, there's no life. I always see theme. So in a game, this is a relatively abstract game, but to me, I understand the thematic choices you're making. And so a little thematic addition like, hey, let's throw slaves in, just for fun, just for fun, just for kicks. It hits me hard. And so it's a turnoff, and that's all I got to say about that. Thanks for your patience in the middle of that rant, which arguably didn't even belong here. But I'm going to stop right there. Wish you guys all a very, very nice day. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it helps you decide whether the game lives up to the hype. And the answer, from a gameplay point of view, it does for 3 or 4 players. And otherwise, I'm going to end right there. Questions, comments, concerns, as always, let me know. Otherwise, have a very nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.